What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbein, joined always by my main man, Steven Thompson. Find us on youtube.com/ All Steelers Talker. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. We are recapping day 11. I believe it's day 11. I'm losing track of time here of Pittsburgh Steelers training camp live from Latrobe, Pennsylvania here at St. Vincent College. It was a hot one. You look a little sunny, and I won't lie, you weren't here today. How are you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling good. I didn't feel like I got a ton of sun today, Like I was pulling pit duty today. And we're not, if you know how pit works, like we're not standing out for 2 hours watching all the practice like you do at the Steelers. So I did not get as much sun as you, but I appreciate it. I like
it looks good. So. Yeah, no, looks good. Looks tan. It is looking like July, August. It's August. See what I mean? I'm losing track of time. August sun is doing you well for the Steelers today. I gotta say, it was a good day. It was a good day for this team. It started a little boring. They ramped it up with some one-on-one sideline tackling drills. Gotta love that one. And then they ended it with a couple of trick plays that I think we got to dive into. We'll talk about all of it, plus more, answer all your guys' questions. So please make sure that you are dropping any thoughts, any questions, anything you'd like to know as we approach the game on Friday in the comment box. And as always, like this video, share it, do the whole nine. Let's talk about today. Started off slow, I got to say. There wasn't much excitement. Kind of felt like a Tuesday, just like okay, getting back into the groove after a couple of days off. Game week, so things aren't going to be too fierce. Kind of keep it limited. Then you look down on the sideline, and there's some one-on-one drills. And you're going, okay, let's see some football get hit. Let's see what's going on. I got a couple of winners that I do want to talk about first. Gunnar Olszewski looked real good, man. Real good. Real elusive, shaking everybody off. Had a couple of real nice escapes on a couple of guys. Darius Hagens, I think, definitely won the day against a name in Mark Robinson, because we are going to talk about losers next, but Mark Robinson was not looking good against Darius Hagens. Anthony McFarland continues to just every chance he gets against Quan Alexander, a little 26 on 26 crime, he just wins every single time. It's like almost hands down. Like, you just know, if you were a betting man, which we very much so are, I would put all of my money on Anthony McFarland winning against Quan Alexander every single time that they line up together. And then our boy Dan Chisnia, who yeah, coming out of the woodwork these last couple of days, had a real good one, juked the ever living hell out of Duke Dawson on the sideline. Felt real good about that one. I think Duke Dawson quickly falling out of whatever race he was in for a starting job in that nickel spot. But all three of those guys, I think, looked really, really good. Wish Darius Hagens had a route to this team. You know what I mean? You always talk about like guys who have a path to the roster. I don't think Darius Hagens necessarily does with Anthony McFarland looking that good. But he's I think since those fumbles, he looks very, very good. Let me tell you about some losers, because I think that's where we got to talk here. Joey Porter Jr. looked horrific.
I did see horrific.
Yeah. So Joey Porter, not once, not twice, but 3 times got juked out of his shoes. And the second 2 were against Des Fitzpatrick in what looked like the worst effort I've seen from anybody today. And I don't think he tried. Like, I don't think it was necessarily a Joey Porter, like just giving up on a play or something like that. It was more so a Joey Porter Jr. just got he was just pissed. He was just angry, and then you let the emotions get the best of him. Took off early. So the way, let me visualize this for everybody listening. Wide receiver standing on, let's say, the 50-yard line. Cornerback is standing on the, 40-yard line. Tanner Morgan catches the snap, throws it to the wide receiver on a little screen pass, probably about 5 yards. So the corner could make a move before then. He's allowed to move. Joey takes off both times. 0 questions asked. He's like, I'm taking somebody's head off. Des Fitzpatrick catches it the first time, takes a little shuffle step, gone. Joey Porter right off of him. No, effortless. They line it back up. He does the same exact thing. It's the same exact play. Looked exactly the same as the play before. Shakes him off. This comes after Gunnar shook him off earlier in the play, and then Gunnar and him ran it back again, and Gunnar shook him off again. Bad day, I think, for Joey Porter Jr. on those ones. I think the other 2 Mark Robinson looked rough, man. He looked like he was trying to take somebody's head off, and everybody was just like, all right, dude, like if you slow down for 2 seconds, you're making a tackle, but you just don't want to do that. Which we'll get into. I think he bounced back big. Hakeem Butler looked atrocious. Like atrocious, man. It's just like it just looks like there was no effort when he got that football. It was just like, I can't do anything. I can't get around you. I'm a one-trick pony. This is all it is. This isn't my drill. I'm going down. And it wasn't like he didn't lower his shoulder. I mean, it's hard for a 6'7" guy to lower his shoulder, but he didn't lower his shoulder. There was no impact. It was just strictly like, and there it was. It was boring.
Yeah, dude, even if a guy like him can't lower his shoulder, like, I don't know, you're 6'7" and I don't have his, weight in front of me, but he's a big dude. Like, he should be able to have some power, maybe use a stiff arm once in a while, like, use your long legs to get around a guy. Like, I get it, a one-on-one, he's not shifty, he's not like, he's not going to press you with that, but you expect a little bit more from him. Like, guys that big should at least have some kind of moves in their bag, like at least a stiff arm. Like I said, like, give me one of those. Come on, that's what I need from a guy like Hakeem Butler,
dude. And I'm saying, like, my thought the first time was jump him, just go airborne. Why are you not going airborne, man? If everybody's going low, go airborne. Like, you're gonna out jump everybody. Like, that's totally fine. No, it was bad. And let's see that. Oh, and it wasn't even like losses to bad names either. It was Tristan Thompson or Trenton Thompson. Oh, there goes the lights. We back on? No. Give me 1 sec. Trenton Thompson looks. All right, keep it going.
Yeah. Trenton Thompson was the guy who was, you can't be losing reps to Trenton Thompson, I think, if you want to make this team as a wide receiver. Nothing against Trenton Thompson, but Hakeem Butler, I don't know. I had higher expectations for him. Noah and I talk about this almost every day when I'm out there. Like, I'm not rooting for Hakeem Butler, I would say, but I was a believer in Hakeem Butler, and he has just not lived up to the hype, at all. Or at least the hype that I had for him. Maybe I had too high of expectations, but just after that, forget what day it was. It was either day 2 or 3, and it was first day of pads. I remember it was first day of pads, and he mossed 2 guys like on deep balls. I think like guys who I thought have looked pretty good at certain points of camps. I think one was Luke Barku, and I forget who the other one was over, but they were real guys. But the practices ever since have just been pretty lackluster, and just haven't really seen anything from him. When he started, actually he had a pretty decent place and showed that jump ball ability that was pretty evident when you see a 6'7" guy walk into the room. Like, you got to have those, but there's just been kind of nothing else.
So I've kind of put it together today because when we were here last Sunday, we were talking about, okay, the Hakeem Butler agenda is back on. We're good. This guy's good again. And then he comes out here today. He has another bad day, or I wouldn't even say a bad day. It was just a bad drill. And then I kind of lost track of him. He didn't really do anything that really stood out. And it just seems like this is a guy that every time you're on the verge of giving up on him, he does something. And then you kind of go right back to giving up on him again. It's just like a constant cycle, like just riding the thread, like just staying on the line as long as he possibly can. And I don't think that works. Like, I don't think that's going to land you a roster spot. I don't think that's going to let, like, you're not going to become a superstar that way. Nothing. You're not. The NFL dream is not built off of 1 of 3 days of practice being good. That's just not what happens. And I kind of feel like that's like the trick. That's where we're falling with this guy, because even with minicamp, it was one really good day and you're like, oh, okay, Hakeem Butler carrying that momentum. Let's go. You come out here, boring. Okay, good day. Boring, real bad. Good day, bad day. And you're just like, 3 good days of, what are we at now? 11 days here, 3 days at minicamp, 14 days of practice. That's just not enough. That's going to make an NFL team. And, I think right now, if there's a place for him, it's the practice squad, which stinks, dude, because that, like, you just look at this guy and you just go, there's a reason that you continue to get second chances. And like, if you could just make it happen, you'd be so good, dude. At bare minimum, you'd be like, just like a big body to just say, hey, whatever,
Yeah. And this guy was listed as a backup, a backup receiver on the latest.
Yeah. On the,
I don't know how much that actually like means, going forward and means for his roster spot, but clearly the Steelers see something in this guy. They see that he could be a weapon, and he just kind of refuses to, I think, capitalize on the optimism that they have for him. And just
That's
the highs have not been high enough to justify or to account for, cover for how low the lows have been.
exactly. I think that at this point, like, yeah, like I don't know, like I'm putting almost zero stock into the depth chart, like as we both are. We both kind of looked at that one and went, all right, you think Mike Tomlin saw this? You think he proofread this before it went out or no? And I truthfully, I don't know if he did. But that's just like you said, like I just don't think he's quickly falling off the radar, and that's just the end of the line. It's for some guys. The Joey Porter Jr. bugged me a little bit just because, like, you're not known as the coverage guy. You're known as like a physical guy who can't tackle. What are we doing? Like, where is your place in the defense, and what is your role, and so on and so forth? That one got me, especially against a guy like Des Fitzpatrick. But to be honest, like, it's not even the missed tackles. I think what's getting me is that I noticeably recognized that he was getting a little in his head, and that's why he ran up there. And I'm starting to think, is losing to George Pickens like this, is it starting to get to him? Like, is he starting to break a little bit? Is that a concern? Because I mean, Joey hasn't won against George Pickens, not one time. And, you're looking at this, and we keep saying, like, he won the day that last week, and then he's had a couple of good plays, and overall he's still losing. Are we hitting a point where it's like, is he in his head? Is he just that angry at George? Is the trash talk getting to him? He's a rookie, he's, and maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the most telling thing was like the way you described it. He made the same mistake twice. Like going against Des Fitzpatrick in the open field, he just didn't make an adjustment after, losing a rep the first time. And that's where I think you can kind of see some frustration settling in. And look, I get it. Like, if you're matched up on George Pickens every time, no one has been able to cover him. No one has been able to win against him. And Joey's done about as well as anyone else on the field has and on this team has. But I could totally understand if, losing these reps are like, no matter how well you play, like no matter how good the coverage is, getting beat is getting beat. And that sucks. And that's not fun, especially when it happens over and over again, especially for a guy like Joey, who I think has a lot of confidence in himself. And I think people had a lot of confidence in and just expected so much of. So if things don't click right away, I could totally understand a situation where he starts to get in his own head and he starts to feel like he's not letting the team down, but just not living up to his own expectations for himself. And, you hope that's not the case. And there's a long road to go, and you just hope maybe and that was, I think, maybe part of the concerning part was they matched him up with someone that he in theory should win against. Des Fitzpatrick is a guy that he should win every time against, or at least most of the time, and the vast majority of the time. And he didn't. In fact, he got beat pretty bad twice in a row.
Pretty bad, man. I wish you were standing there, because you would have had the same reaction as me. I was just like, oh, not again, man. And then when he started running the second time, you're like, oh, this is gonna be even worse. And it was way worse. Yeah, I think Friday will tell us a lot about Joey Porter Jr. and our expectations for him, but I am starting to get a little nervous. Not like nervous as in maybe Joey's a bad player, just nervous as in like, what's the year one ceiling for this guy, and how long is it going to take before he kind of hits it? Ryan, we'll get to your question here, guys. We've heard about Broderick Jones, Joey Porter Jr., Darnell Washington, Nick Herbig. You guys got anything on Keanu Benton? I love the pick as well. I think that he does fit very well. I will say that when it comes to Keanu Benton, there's not a lot to talk about because there just hasn't been a lot in general. I don't think that the Steelers, for two things. One, unless you're a pass rusher, then it's very tough to say that you've made a ton of plays here at training camp. You know what I'm saying? Like unless you're like noticeably going to sack the quarterback, and like you can't sack the quarterback, but unless you're noticeably in the backfield, it's tough to say like, oh, that was the guy that got his hands on it. And I think that's the same way. Like, unless it's a big play, guys don't necessarily pay a ton of attention to the defensive line because there's so much going on with it. But I think the second thing there is that the Steelers are doing a lot of things like running to the outside, running only on goal line, once the second team comes in, it's really tough to judge if Keanu Benton looks really good against, Bill Dunkel, or if Keanu Benton just is really, really good. I would say that there hasn't been Keanu's made some very nice plays. Like he had that batted ball a couple of days ago.
Yep.
He's had a couple of run stuffs that I've noticed, especially I believe he had one today against Anthony McFarland. There's just been really nice plays from him. I think that the guys around him, my thing with the defensive line right now is how do you cut a guy? And how do you decide who plays? Because I think every single one of them has looked very good. Montravius Adams shocked me. He looks really good. Isaiah Loudermilk looks like he took another step forward. Armon Watts is making plays. Braden Fayoko is making plays. Keanu Benton's making plays. There just isn't anybody on this line that you're sitting there going, well, they're cut. And I think that's what's tough right now is that, like, they all just look so good that it's tough to, like, with the rest of them. Like, Broderick Jones is the same way. Like, there hasn't been a moment where you're like, Broderick Jones, that was it. That was the moment right there, There hasn't. I think there was one moment with Joey Porter Jr., but like we talked about, is against Cody White. What are you going to do there? Darnell Washington's had his moment. Nick Herbig started out this camp on fire. But I just think the other two, especially Keanu Benton, has just been, in such a good defensive line that everybody just looks very, very good.
Yeah. And to your point, it's a situation where if Benton's not making plays and not standing out, if he's not making those big splash or impact plays, he kind of looks like he's falling behind. And that could be true or not. Like you said, it's real hard to read the inside of the defensive line given, like you said, it's crowded. It's hard to watch. It's not something that the Steelers are really testing, like with their offense. Just when they do team drills, it's not the interior of the defensive line is not something they're testing really often. So it's a little hard to read. But like getting back to the original point, like if he's not making those splash plays, it's real hard to stand out. I was a little more concerned, I think, at the beginning of camp when maybe a few days in, or a little under a weekend, when I didn't notice Keanu Benton at all, because like Ryan said, I liked the pick too. I thought it was a good fit, and I thought he had a real good chance to honestly start right away, but he just hadn't shown up, and you were kind of waiting. You kept checking your watch, like, ooh, when's this going to happen? Like, when's this guy going to explode? When's he going to kind of realize that potential? And when he didn't, I got concerned. I think I'm less concerned now, though. I think there's definitely been some plays that you're like, okay, there he is. I've noticed him. He's checking in. And I think later in, these preseason games will obviously be telling. I think that's when he'll show up a little bit more, when, there's live competition and stuff.
Exactly. I think that's the biggest thing is his strength is when you run the football, and the Steelers haven't really, like, it's like, why haven't we talked about Najee Harris or Jaylen Warren a lot? It's because they just haven't focused much attention there. And I don't know why, but they haven't. And I think once we get into real games and the defensive line is unstoppable, you're like, oh, okay, Keanu Benton's here, man. And this is it. And I think we will get to there. But like you said, it's tough. And I want to bring this to you guys as much as possible. I want to give you all those observations, but it's just tough right now. Want to get to Anthony McFarland, want to get to Calvin Austin, and definitely going to talk some Kendrick Green playing fullback. First, we just got a word here from our sponsor, Aura. If it plays.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. I think I'm messing up here. Well, I tried our hardest. Let's talk about it, Calvin Austin. All right, first we're going to talk about Anthony McFarland here. Shout out to Aura. If you guys use him, cool. If not, we'll talk about him later. Anthony McFarland, how does he look? Is he still competing well, or back to just being a practice squad hero? Calvin Austin looked good today, just like we started the show off with. Dude, him and Quan Alexander, 26 on 26 crime. He is undefeated in that. And I'm talking one-on-one running back, linebacker, pass drills, one-on-one, which I guess heavily leans towards Anthony McFarland in that favor, but one-on-one on the sideline drills, smoked Quan Alexander today twice. I just think that he has continued to look good, and they're utilizing him in space. Just like I said, they've kind of turned their back a little bit on the running backs as a whole, and just kind of started doing other things and utilizing other players and focusing on other position groups. But overall, McFarland has not slowed down. I think at this point, it's almost safe to say that if you're going to put out a 53-man roster, he's on it, and I don't think that Hagens would be the closest, I think, in competition, and I just don't think that he's real competition.
Yeah, and I think that says more about the kind of camp Anthony McFarland's had than honestly the camp that Darius Hagens has had. Anthony McFarland has been like just in terms of guys at training camp, he's probably been the most consistently impressive player like across the board. Like it was from the start, and I think we've talked about him almost every day, every time we've done one of these live streams, if not every time. And I think we pointed this out before, but it's the stacking days, It's like when Anthony McFarland used to impress you, it was like one day and you were like, oh, there's a flash. Like there's something that we can latch onto, but kind of fizzled out pretty quickly. This is every day and it is complete. Like it is a complete performance. So it's catching the ball, it's running the ball. And it is also, I think in backs on backers, his blocking has been pretty impressive too against guys like that. And I think the other thing is when you think about like those one-on-one drills against Quan Alexander, those are the situations that the Steelers are going to put him in. If he's going to be an effective player for them and make any kind of impact for them this year, they're going to try to find situations for him to get one-on-one with coverage linebackers. And like you said, that favors Anthony McFarland, but like, yeah, that's the situations they're going to put him in because it does. Like, I think they're going to find advantageous situations for him, which is why I do kind of put some stock into him beating Quan Alexander, who's also supposed to be a really good coverage linebacker. Those are the matchups Anthony McFarland thrives in, and that's, those are situations I think the Steelers can put him in. Like you're not going to put a corner on Anthony McFarland. You're not going to double cover him. Like he's going to get his opportunities to beat guys in space. And if he can do that, this Steelers offense just adds another wrinkle to it, and they get a little more diverse. They get a little more difficult to cover. And, Anthony McFarland I truly believe, even as a running back 3, can be a weapon for this team.
I 100% agree. 100% agree. I think that, like I've had this conversation with others, and I'm not ready to bring it mainstream yet, and I'm not ready to put my name on this opinion, but I think that if Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris traded draft stocks, we're having a real conversation about who the RB1 is. And I think that if Anthony McFarland is a rookie, we're having a real conversation about how big his impact can be. And I get that it's year 4 and that changes things, and you have to always take that into consideration. I 100% get that. But I think that if he didn't have the reputation of, well, it's going to fall apart at some point, you'd be looking at Anthony McFarland going, man, dude, this kid looks real good. Real good. And I think that the biggest thing is that we're not the only ones that are acknowledging it. Like all the players, Mike Tomlin, Anthony McFarland himself have all acknowledged that like there's a different feel to him this year. And it's more, you don't see one splash play, like you said, and then he kind of disappears, or one big day. It's consistency, and it's every single day. And you're starting to feel like he is just part of this offense. It's not like, oh, and we've gone from they're trying to get him into the offense to he is part of the offense, and I think that you could use him in those spots. And just like you said, like even the blocking, like there's a picture, if you go on Steelers.com and you look at the photos of week 2, there's a picture of Anthony McFarland blocking a Landon Roberts in backs on backers and winning. And you're going, that should never happen. That should like last year, that doesn't happen. He eats it and it's bad. This year it's, okay, that was huge. Way to hold your own. Way to keep up. And I think that the steps he's taken are just, like you said, there's nobody that looks better than him on the field, maybe outside of George Pickens. But outside of that, I think that the growth from Anthony McFarland to year 3 to year 4 is wild. He's got low miles on him, even from college. Like he played 2 years in college, really only played 1 good season or contributed in 1 season. And here he is. Like this dude's still raw and he's still developing. And I think that you could 100% find a place for him in the offense. And I think that the Steelers are going to. And I think that in this first preseason game, they're going to really lean on him heavy and say, let's see what you got, man. Let's see what you could show us. And I think that what he shows is going to be real. If Calvin Austin wins all the return duties, there will be no real reason to keep Gunner, or is Gunner an important special teamer? So my thing with Gunner is I agree that Gunner's importance on the roster is very low, but I also don't think that anybody else in the wide receiver group has looked good enough to replace him. I think that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I don't think Gunner looks any worse than he did or any better than he did a year ago, I think he looks exactly the same. But I don't think Hakeem Butler's worthy of a roster spot right now. I don't think Jordan Byrd is worthy of a roster spot if he's not a kick returner. Des Fitzpatrick came in here with some momentum. That's pretty much died down to nothing. Jamarcus Bradley just got released. I just think that at this point, there's maybe outside of Cody White, but I still think that like if you're going to keep one of those two, why not just keep Gunner and put Cody White on your practice squad, because nobody's going to pick up Cody White.
Right.
Somebody will probably pick up Gunner. Like, I just don't think that there's anybody who really challenges him right now for that final roster spot.
Yeah, let me ask you. How many? So is Gunner the 6th or the 5th wide receiver? Like, how many do you think?
I would say the 6th. I'd say Miles. Miles is the 5th because I think Miles has a spot. I think it goes George, Deontay, Allen Robinson, Calvin Austin, Miles Boykin, and then Gunner. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because that's the thing. This receivers room is like loaded. Honestly, like it feels pretty deep, and everyone's kind of got a role in a niche. I do kind of I see what you're saying with the Gunner, with the question. Gunner could be a little redundant if Calvin Austin is really that guy as a returner. But like you said, like I'm not sacrificing Gunner for Cody White or Hakeem Butler.
There it goes again.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm not giving up a roster spot for one of those guys because, at the end of the day, Hakeem Butler and Cody White might give you something different. They could theoretically be better guys for your, like, to play offense, but I'm not counting on my 6th wide receiver to play offense. I'm counting on him to be a much better contributor on special teams, make some plays there. Like, and like you said, if I want to keep Cody White around, I can keep Cody White and Hakeem Butler around. Like, those guys are not getting picked up off my practice squad. I completely agree with that point. Like, Gunner has the experience. Gunner is someone who will get picked up if you let him go. So hang on to him. And I feel like you're in a really good spot with your wide receivers.
Yeah, it's just like the conversation we had the other day. And I'm sorry if you mentioned this when my headphones were off, but the argument that me and you had was, do you keep Kevin Dotson because you'd like to have 4 guards? And it's the same thing with Gunner. Like, what if Calvin goes down? Well, okay, we have Gunner. Like, cool. That's the easiest replacement that you could possibly have. And if you get rid of him, like, you're not replacing him for anybody who adds that same amount of value. And I just think that that's where we are with him. Do I think that he plays much offense? No, but I think that if you're going to, it's the same reason that you keep backup offensive linemen. It's the same reason that you keep backup safeties and backup corners. Like, there's, no place for, I don't know, if they keep Spencer Anderson, what is his value? 0. But if somebody goes down, he's suddenly got value. And I think that that's the same thing with Gunner right there, is just to have that backup returner just in case, who could also play offense, worst case scenario, if need be. It's not somebody that you want to rely on, but if you have to, you're not like, you're not stuck with Cody White or
Hakeem Butler. Like else. You're not.
Yeah, exactly. What do we think of Kendrick Green playing fullback, man? I can tell you this. It's official. There's no more debate. There's no more, is Kendrick Green going to be a fullback or a center, or what is he? He is a fullback. He is still practicing at center. He's still taking snaps at center. Cool. He is a fullback. He took the first snap on first team reps at fullback today. He took the last snap of first team reps at fullback today. He lined up in goal line at fullback and led Najee Harris for the simplest touchdown run I've seen all summer. And I can tell you that, like, I tweeted it out the other day and I said, Kendrick Green lead Najee Harris at the goal line. Who's stopping that? Nobody. And we saw it today, and he took out not 1, but 2 players at the goal line, and Najee just walks in. And you go, yeah, that should happen every time, every single time. I'm all on board for Kendrick Green. He's athletic enough to play fullback. He's got hands. He's working. I think Kendrick's got, he kind of reminds me of Patrick Ricard, who the Ravens are actually trying to turn into an offensive lineman. And the Steelers are out here just going, what a bunch of idiots, man. Why would you we just took this out of your playbook and it's working, and you're going to ruin this? Like, no, I think it's a great idea. And I think that right now, Kendrick Green, I'm chalking him up as a fullback 1, and I'm feeling real good about it.
Yeah. I'm starting to look up, over under touchdown odds for
Oh
Kendrick
yeah.
Green for the season because he's going to score. I don't know. I feel like if I could put some money down on Kendrick Green to score multiple touchdowns, several, just two,
Woo.
like over 1.5, I feel like I would
Yeah.
take that. I feel like you'd get great odds on that, and you'd have a lot of fun rooting for that week in, week out. But yeah, I like I like Kendrick Green as the fullback. I'm happy he got like another chance. Like, I don't know, this clearly wasn't going to work out as an offensive lineman, but I like that he's getting a second chance. It's funny that like, okay, apparently all they needed to do to get Kendrick Green to block was to give him a full head of steam and a running start.
Yeah.
That's just interesting.
That's what he
But
did in college, though. That's the thing is like coming into college, every single one of this guy's highlights out of Illinois is him pulling and just lighting up a linebacker. And you're going, oh, yeah, that was it. And then he had to block in line. And you're just like, why does he stink, man? Why is he not good? It's just like, oh, because he was a fullback who would just play guard. That's just all he did. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it wasn't his fault. He was playing out of position. It was his coach's fault. I think that's what we figured out. So yeah, good for Kendrick Green. This is, I don't know. Occasionally, this can be kind of a lull in training camp, but Kendrick Green has just brought this thing to life. Like I think he has put a shot in the arm of the Steelers fan base and especially Steelers media. I think everyone's having like, I don't know. I just think it's a nice story. I think it's nice that they kind of believed in Kendrick Green and are like finding a role for him. I don't know. I think it's a nice story. I like it.
No, I agree 100%. I think Kendrick's a good dude. I think that Kendrick is talented. I think he's a mean football player. I think he's just undersized and wasn't meant to be an offensive lineman. You can be a full. I mean, this is a way better option than Connor Hayward. 10 times the option, as a blocker, way better option than Connor Hayward. Way better than Derek Watt. Like, this is way better than Monty the Mullet. That guy, that's probably why he retired. He probably saw the writing on the wall. He was sitting in an offensive meeting, and Matt Canada writes on the board 53 at fullback, and Monty goes, "What the heck, man? That's me." And then he called whoever afterwards, and they said, "Yeah, you're not going to beat that guy out. Have you seen his college tape from Illinois? He pulls all the time." And he goes, "Yeah, I'm done. I'm done." Yeah.
Well, I do. And on a more serious note, like I like how this frees up Connor Hayward. Like the biggest thing I was worried about with this whole like move to H-back or fullback or something was, can he block? Like, is that, is he going to get run over all the time? But you don't really have to worry about that now, like you need a blocker out of that spot. Kendrick Green, baby. I'll do it all day.
All day. Huge fan of Kendrick Green, a fullback. I mean, if you're a fullback guy, go buy a Kendrick Green jersey, man. That is as Pittsburgh of a fullback as it possibly gets. 100%. All right. Are we concerned about Kenny Pickett's red zone stats in comparison to Brock Purdy? I've actually heard from multiple people in San Francisco, that Brock Purdy looks atrocious right now, which is not great for them. I don't really care as a Steelers guy, but I mean, not good for them. I've also heard Trey Lance looks terrible. So just all around, I mean, my source is Grant Cohn. Yeah. Which, colleague, good guy, great guy, but some people don't really like him. But he loves watching those quarterbacks and hasn't been great. Worried that Kenny's not the guy. Let me tell you this, and I said this yesterday in my to-go, is that my views on Kenny Pickett are very simple. I think that once we get in games, we understand who Kenny Pickett is. We understand whether or not he's got it. We understand where that second-year leap is in comparison to year one. Until then, until we have a full game, we have no idea how good Kenny Pickett is. All we could say is that the Steelers are putting as much pressure on this guy as humanly possible in training camp. They are giving him the worst scenarios possible in 2-minute drills. They are constantly putting him without his starting wide receivers, or pulling his offensive linemen, or doing this or doing that, or making him, play at the red zone or the goal line. They're making life extremely difficult for him in big moments. And I think that is huge, because I think it's only going to drive. It's like I compared it to putting the donut on the baseball bat when you're taking those warm-up swings. You know what I mean? It's heavy. When you take it off and you got Deontay Johnson and Allen Robinson and George Pickens and Calvin Austin and Pat Freiermuth, and none of these, you were throwing to Cody White in a 2-minute drill during training camp. Now there's a minute 50 on the clock, and you have Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, all these guys who could catch, who could actually make plays. Life becomes a ton easier. And I think that until we have the opportunity to actually see that in action, I don't really know how to go about Kenny Pickett, outside of the fact that I believe that they are preparing him correctly. I agree with their approach in preparing him for year 2.
Yeah. Make the practice harder than the game so the games are easy. That's a pretty classic strategy. It makes sense. And Kenny is a guy that I think you count on to thrive under pressure. So
yeah,
I don't think he's looked awful in camp, despite, like you said, the Steelers making life really difficult on him. So I think it's okay to be encouraged, but I think it's also okay to be kind of cautiously optimistic and enter the regular season with a little bit of, okay, let's kind of reserve judgment until, we can actually see him work with the full team and see him in a lot of game situations. Do you think he'll play a lot on Friday, or do you think they'll kind of hold him out?
I don't know. We talked about that today. We asked him about it, and he said that he doesn't know until Friday. I think that this will be the game he plays the most. Maybe next week will be the game that I don't expect him to play in the third preseason game. I expect that to be like no starters.
That's Tanner Morgan time, baby.
Tanner Morgan time, baby. Talked to Tanner Morgan today. I was like, hey man, what are you getting from all those mental reps? And he's like, let me tell you, there are a lot of plays where I'm sitting back there going, man, I would not have thrown the ball there, but it was a complete pass. And I'm like, cool. If I had to guess, I'd say maybe a quarter, maybe. I do expect him to roll out there. I actually definitely do, but just how much, I don't know yet. I'd say at max a quarter, minimum, maybe 2 drives, and then depending how they feel about the second game, I think is their game plan. But I agree with you 100%. I think on Friday, we're going to get a huge view on everybody on this team. And I don't know how big of a view we'll get on Kenny Pickett, in 3 drives. But I do think that I just think that once I think that they are, just like you said, I think they're doing everything to get this guy ready for when those moments of judgment come. And until then, you got to feel good about it. Just so we are clear on this, he is 6'5". I looked it up after we said it like the 8th time, and I was just like, I don't think he's actually 6'7". He is only 6'5". It doesn't matter, man. I'm 5'8" on a good day, and
he's big.
6'5". Yeah, dude, 6'5". Once you're over 6'3", you're just ginormous. Like you're either, especially on an NFL field. If you're in the NBA, I guess it's a different story. There's like 3 people that are taller than 6'5" if you're 6'5" on a football field. Yeah. And the other 2 aren't playing. So you're the only one there. But like I said, we'll see more about that, as we get things rolling. Nick Herbig, legitimate off the edge. I thought Nick Herbig has looked fantastic every time I've seen him out here. I think the edge rushers have died off a little bit, but I also don't think that I've necessarily been paying a lot of attention to them that much. Again, I think that it's tough because you can't actually sack a quarterback, and that once the pads come on, it's not like when the pads aren't on, it's okay, one guy's in the backfield and it's very clear that one guy's in the backfield. When the pads come on, it's like, okay, one guy's in the backfield, 4 guys are in the backfield, everybody's in the backfield. Oh, okay, Kenny Pickett still threw the ball. Like it's really tough to judge who got there first, who would have a sack. But I think he's looked good, and I think that overall, I think my other takeaway is like Marcus Golden has been kind of quiet. So maybe there's an opportunity for Nick to actually get some serious playing time this season and kind of showcase that.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick Herbig has been another guy who's really impressed. He was hurt for a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. Practice today, he was in pads, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, he's been real impressive. That speed has translated and kept that quickness has been real steady and has kept going. It's been with him throughout training camp, and even when the pads came on, we thought that might limit him a little bit and he might take a step back. He really hasn't. I didn't think so. Yeah, Herbig's been real impressive, and like you said, yeah, I completely agree about Marcus Golden. I think there is an opportunity for Nick to kind of capitalize, especially keep coming back to this, but Friday is going to be huge for him. I don't think Marcus Golden is going to, I expect him to play a little bit more than Marcus, a lot more probably than Marcus Golden. He's going to get a ton of work on Friday. So we'll see what he does there. We'll see if he can actually do it in a game, but training camp, positive, A+, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. Looks fantastic. I expect him to play. I expect him to start because I don't expect TJ to play. I don't really expect Alex Highsmith to play that much. Maybe Marcus plays a series, but I expect it to be a lot of Nick Herbig. So I feel very good about what this kid has brought to the table. I do want to get to the ceiling of the Steelers, but I kind of want to finish on that one. So we'll see if there's any other ones here from a second. Shout out to you guys from Coachella. I don't know if Coachella is actually like happening right now, but that's
I think it
awesome.
is.
Is it a real
Where's
place?
Coachella?
I think it's
Is it the one?
California.
Oh, okay. Lollapalooza is the one in Chicago, right?
Dude, I
No,
have
that's
no
not
idea.
it. There's one.
No
I
idea.
don't know music festivals.
Yeah,
I
me
don't.
neither. I cover the Steelers during the season, during the summer, so I get to do these things. All right. There, I saw one at the end of the season. Who wins Steelers Rookie of the Year? This is a good one. I'm gonna let you answer this one first.
Steelers Rookie of the Year. That's a good question. See, because I backed off of I think Broderick Jones starts eventually. Like, I think maybe he starts a couple games here or there, but I honestly, I'm not convinced that he's a starter right away and that he's going to be the star that we kind of expected right away. So, man, after our conversation about Joey Porter, I don't feel great about this, but I do think it ends up being him. I
Oh,
don't.
okay.
I do think he ends up kind of bouncing back and getting a little bit better and getting that confidence back. I think it also has something to do with the fact that I don't expect a whole lot out of Darnell Washington and Keanu Benton. I think at this point, I think Nick Herbig will be in the conversation too, but still, I think Porter's going to get the most opportunity and just going to kind of bank on the talent and bank on him rebounding. I think I'm
Oh, we lost Steven. Don't know what happened. So I'm gonna keep going. These are the problems with the live streams, man. We try our hardest. Doesn't always work. He's back. He's back.
what happened there?
I don't know. I don't know either. All right, you figure out your things. I'm going to talk. So, Nick, I'm going to answer this while I answer my question here. So, Rookie of the Year, Benton. We went on a long Benton thing earlier. I would definitely recommend going to check that out. Don't think he looks lost out there. I think Keanu Benton's my pick here. I think Darnell Washington is my close second. Joey Porter Jr. is like the safest pick, and I agree with you there. Like, I think that makes the most sense. I think Keanu Benton is going to make some plays once he gets the opportunity to. I think that he's also going to thrive in a defensive line that is just dominant, and I think that he's going to be able, like, you can't, at the end of the day, if you're paying attention to TJ Watt, paying attention to Alex Highsmith, paying attention to Cam Hayward, paying attention to Larry Ogunjobi, you got no pieces left to say, oh, Keanu, let's go get the second round draft pick from Wisconsin. Let's focus our attention there, especially when you got Cole Holcomb and Landon Roberts and Quan Alexander, coming off the wherever, and Minkah Fitzpatrick blitzing, and Keanu Neal standing out there looking terrifying. Like, there's just enough going on that I think Keanu makes an impact. And I think by the end of the season, we're looking at a guy that's like, I don't know, maybe he only has 2 or 3 sacks, but I just think that I think that his impact will be significant.
Yeah, like a whole bunch of pressures, but maybe not finishing off the sacks. Maybe like, collapse in the pocket a little bit, situational pass. I like that. I see it. I get that. I just think I need to see a little bit more, maybe in training camp, maybe in these preseason games. Like, I might have a completely different answer on Saturday. Yes, Saturday game's Friday. So
Yeah.
after we see these guys actually get some work, because we haven't talked about it in a while, but it's like they have a lot of rookies. They just have a lot of rookies.
Yes.
And a lot of guys a lot of these rookies who you think will actually contribute. So it's going to be rookie heavy on Friday night. And so we're going to learn, we keep coming back to this, but we're going to learn a lot about this team and a lot about its depth and its young guys, which, I think everyone's been pretty excited about, and for good reason.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very excited for Friday. All right, let's end this with this bad boy right here. After seeing them up close a couple of times, not sure how many times you've been there every Sunday for the past 5 years, Alex, but I appreciate you. You guys have realistic ceilings for this team. I'm optimistic, but haven't been this excited since 2017. That's a long time. That includes the 2020 season where they went 11-0. So that's exciting times. I'll let you start this one as well. What's your realistic ceiling for the Steelers right now?
I think my realistic ceiling is win the division, go to the AFC Championship. I think that's a ceiling, and that's a ceiling. I don't think they will. I have a hard time seeing a scenario where they go much beyond that, but I think winning the division is certainly plausible. Like, I think this division is wide open, and the Steelers have just as good a chance as really anyone. I mean, the Bengals are obviously the favorite, but I feel like people are kind of severely underrating this team and severely underrating both also how competitive this division is going to be. So win the North, and then things fall the right way, and you could have a pretty favorable path, like, to the AFC Championship game. If you're able to avoid, like, I'm not super scared of Buffalo this year. I don't
No.
think anyone really needs to be. I think they're kind of on. They're not going to have as good a season as they did last year. And then it's just kind of Kansas City and the Bengals, but they're really competitive with the Bengals. They were last year, split a series with them. Probably, I mean, I think they were within one score of that game.
Yeah.
And it was two completely different games too, which I think we don't really talk about enough. Like it was like there was the defensive struggle in week 1, but then there was also like a shootout in whatever week that was later in the season. So I just think it's that, just need.
We're finishing it. We're finishing it in the dark. This is what we're doing. It seems like it's getting darker.
They're trying to force you out even more. Like, get the message, buddy.
I agree. All right. So 2 things before I answer here. For one, shout out, Mark. Appreciate you. We apologize for all the audio issues and for the lights. Obviously, this is what happens when you're on the road, man. St. Vincent College is not equipped for podcasts, I guess, but we try our hardest. And second here for this one, why do I always pronounce it Trubisky instead of Trubisky? Because I'm from Scranton, man. And, anybody who's met me and talked to me for more than 10 minutes understands completely that everything I say sounds wrong. And I just can't do anything about it. I try very hard, but I just can't,
I forgive you
can't do anything about it. Thank you. I appreciate you. All right. My ceiling for the Steelers, realistically, is exactly what you said. I think that it is very possible for them to win the AFC North. I think that the Bengals are a team that right now don't have a quarterback, and I expect Joe Burrow to be fine and everything to be dandy there. But I also think that at some point, just like the Steelers, the runaway dominance of a division gets caught up and everybody starts to catch the guy at the top because that's who they're shooting for. And the Steelers for the past 2 seasons have been shooting for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think at one point teams are going to catch them. I also think it's really, really hard to win 6 games in your division this season. So I think that, maybe you're only going to have to win 4 or 3 to win the AFC North as long as your record outside of the division is fine. I think that it is very possible for them to win the AFC North. Once they get in there, just like you said, this is awesome. Thank you so much. This is exactly 20 minutes. I'll know that for next time. So once they get in there, I agree with you. Buffalo doesn't scare me nearly as much as they used to. And I think that that's a team that, guys have kind of left because they've understood that the ceiling may be where they are. The Chiefs are obviously terrifying. Baltimore is a team that I think the Steelers play tough every time, so I'm not overly concerned about them. And there's not really a team outside of that screams like the Steelers can't win, And I'm not saying that there's not good teams. I'm just saying, like, the Chiefs are the only team that if you told me the Steelers are facing the Chiefs in the AFC Championship, I'd say, oh, okay, well, chances are the Chiefs are going to win that. I just don't think that there's another team out there that is that good, So I think anything's possible, but I think that if we're being realistic, just to stick with, I'm not going to say the Steelers are a Super Bowl team. I'm just going to say that I think that it is the ceiling right now for me is to stick in the regular season and to say that winning the AFC North is possible, is very, very possible. And even if you got to factor in Matt Canada and you got to factor in a lot of new guys, but I think that the defense is good enough. I think that Mike Tomlin's good enough. And I think that Kenny Pickett wins enough. And I think that that's, they have the formula. It's just about putting it together. And I think that in the AFC North, that is very, very, very possible. So feel good about that one. Making sure we didn't miss anything here. Darnell Washington, he's looked very good. He's still developing, I would say, but go back to a couple of days ago when he had a really nice 2-minute drill grab that I thought looked good. I think he's developing well. His hands are still a little rough, but as a blocker, he's ridiculous. There's an interview talking about him beating TJ Watt. You got to feel real, real good about that one. All right. With that, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Again, I apologize for the lights, but St. Vincent College, man. You got to do what you got to do. Live from Steelers training camp. Make sure to go subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/allsteelerstalk. Like this video. Find us anywhere you get your podcasts and check out everything coming from Steelers training camp at allsteelers.com. Me and Derek will be back tomorrow. Make sure you jump onto that one. It is sadly Derek's last show with us before he goes off to bigger and better things. We'll be breaking down everything from camp on top of, I take that back. I'm lying to you right now. I'm lying to everybody. It will be me and Steven again tomorrow, live. Tomorrow's only Wednesday, losing track of days. Live from here, so make sure you jump onto that one. Then Thursday, me and Derek will be breaking down everything heading into the first preseason game. Thank you guys again for jumping on. Enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.